Case study: Offences Ireland 1998. Introduction. In 1998, a case that redefined harassment and its legal consequences reached the House of Lords in England and Wales, Offences Ireland. The defendant, Robert Ireland, became embroiled in a legal battle due to his actions towards 3 women. Over a period of 3 months, Ireland engaged in a course of conduct that caused significant distress. He repeatedly made silent phone calls to the women, primarily late at night. These calls, devoid of any verbal interaction, instilled fear and anxiety in the victims. This behavior ultimately led to Ireland being charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm (ABH) under Section 47 of the Offences Against the Person Act 1861. Issues. The legal battle in Offences Ireland centered on 2 critical issues that had not been definitively addressed before. Silence as assault. Traditionally, assault was understood as an act that caused apprehension of immediate violence. Could silence, in the context of repeated phone calls, create such apprehension and constitute an assault? Psychiatric injury as bodily harm. The concept of actual bodily harm in ABH typically referred to physical injuries. Did the mental distress and anxiety caused by the silent calls qualify as actual bodily harm under the Act? Holding. The House of Lords delivered a landmark judgment, upholding Ireland's conviction for ABH. The court took a progressive approach, recognizing the evolving nature of assault and the potential for psychological harm. Their decision hinged on 2 key points. The repeated nature of the silent calls, coupled with the late hour, created a reasonable fear of imminent violence in the minds of the victims. The court acknowledged that silence, in this specific context, could be a deliberate tactic intended to cause apprehension and intimidation. The court broadened the definition of actual bodily harm to encompass medically recognized psychiatric illness resulting from an assault. The mental distress and anxiety caused by Ireland's actions were deemed sufficient to qualify as actual bodily harm for the purposes of ABH. Ratio decidendi. The court's reasoning in Offences Ireland focused on the potential psychological impact of the defendant's actions. The repeated silent calls in the dead of night were not considered mere pranks. Instead, the court recognized them as a deliberate course of conduct designed to cause fear and intimidation. This apprehension of imminent violence, even without spoken threats, was deemed sufficient to constitute an assault. Additionally, the court acknowledged the growing understanding of mental health and the real-world consequences of psychological harm. By broadening the definition of actual bodily harm to include medically recognized psychiatric illness, the court ensured that such harm would not be disregarded within the legal framework. Significance. Offences Ireland holds immense significance for English criminal law in several ways. It established a precedent for recognizing silence as a potential element of assault. particularly in situations where the context and course of conduct create a reasonable fear of violence. Furthermore, the case expanded the scope of actual bodily harm beyond physical injuries, offering legal recognition and recourse for victims who suffer psychological trauma due to an assault. This broader understanding has significant implications for stalking and harassment cases, allowing for prosecution based on the mental harm inflicted. Conclusion. R versus Ireland stands as a pivotal case, expanding the legal understanding of assault and actual bodily harm in English law. It acknowledges the psychological impact of harassment and stalking behavior, paving the way for holding perpetrators accountable for the mental harm they inflict. This case serves as a crucial reference point for prosecuting harassment and ensuring the protection of victims' mental well-being. While the case leaves room for interpretation in specific situations, it represents a significant step forward in recognizing and addressing the psychological consequences of criminal acts. If you are a law student and looking for more case studies, visit our website www.mylawtutor.net.